Rockport, Massachusetts is a picturesque tourist village on the Atlantic coast, not far, it turns out, from where I grew up, in Marblehead, another picturesque harbor town 20 miles south, closer to Boston. Rockport's smaller and maybe a little less well known, but they share the same conservative Yankee attitude. Work hard, stay out unless you plan to eat dinner or buy something, and don't change anything. All remnants of the 1600s when the Puritans were in charge. In the spring of 2005, this pretty tourist village was a divided one between those who wanted to keep things the same, that is, no alcohol served anywhere, and those who wanted to liven things up by bringing in the booze, if only into restaurants and only with a meal. As a reporter, my job was to play the detective, stay cool and stay neutral. As my own personal view was, change is good. If you don't change, you die. And there were definite signs that Rockport had seen better days. The seafood restaurant I'd been to as a kid was still there, in the same place and open for business. At the same time, just up the street, the for rent signs were popping up like rabbits. But try making the commercial argument to someone who lived near the harbor, where you could gaze out at bobbing lobster boats all day, as golden sunbeams danced on the salty Atlantic. All you'd get in return would be a blank stare, then an argument, and that's what was happening in beautiful rocky Rockport. It was the wets, the Hatfields, battling the Drys, the McCoys, just without guns. I arrived in Rockport, unannounced, on a typical March morning, meaning it was gray and overcast. The sandy bay seemed like a typical motel, complete with indoor pool, so I stopped in to see what they had to offer.
Okay.
One person. Is there any exciting nightlife around here?
No, there isn't. Not really. Well, it is beautiful around here.
No, that's not what I had in mind.
Gloucester is not far, and I'm not sure what they have there.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I heard from my producer, Phil Hopkins, that a pro-dry rally was scheduled for outside the library at noon. I had a few hours to kill, so I went over to Bearskin Neck, the quaint part of town, and where most of the commercial action is. Behind the counter at the Gentili Gallery was, not surprisingly, Linda Gentili. What you sell here?
Art, handmade, handcrafted gifts.
Okay, and do you make this yourself, or do you?
Some of the things I do, yes.
Where do you come down personally on this issue of illegal alcohol sales, yes or no?
I'm going to say yes.
Why?
Yes. Hoping that it might help improve the businesses here. There are a lot of people that I communicate with that do leave Rockport because they cannot have a glass of wine or a beer with their dinner.
So, ergo, therefore, if they could get what they want as far as getting really drunk, I was going to say shit-faced, but I'm not going to say that. Drunk, then they could have their little drink, then come over here and buy some jewelry.
Yes.
Theoretically.
They don't need to be drunk to do that.
Actually, you probably don't want them to be drunk.
No, I don't.
Maybe you do want them. Wouldn't you want them to have a couple of drinks? Wouldn't that them be apt to buy more stuff?
Not necessarily.
I was hungry, so I stepped into the Porticello Pizzeria, checked out their cheese calzone minis, then chatted up the owner, Armando, who had an extensive menu, just no customers yet other than me. This issue on April 19th. You're a restaurateur, so you obviously have some sort of commercial interest in this. Where do you come down on this issue?
Seems like I come down right down the middle. We probably won't be getting a liquor license here.
Why not?
Well, for one thing, we're trying to first get established. I think for now, the way we have it with soda, pizza, is a good thing for us at this time. But I do think that it's good for business here on Bearskin Neck as far as after the 5 p.m. crowd.
What are we seeing here? What kind of item is this exactly?
Okay, we have here ham and cheese calzone minis, spinach and cheese calzone minis, and pepperoni cheese calzone minis.
Okay, can I try one?
Of course you can.
Which one should I try?
Whatever you like. It's Good Friday.
Thank you very much. I'm going to try the actual pepperoni and cheese, and here it goes. This is really, really good. How long does it take to make one of these?
Between making it, rolling it, and baking it, about 12 minutes.
God, I'm exhausted just listening to that. I was about to head over to the library when I was redirected across the street to another gift shop, this time owned by a friendly lady named Leslie, who had definite opinions about the upcoming vote. Time for what?
Rockport to start charging for the alcohol that's coming into this town.
It's coming in anyway, and you might as well get a piece of the action, right?
Well, I think that's only the common sense thing to do.
Well, it's certainly the American thing to do, right?
Absolutely.
What is your prediction on what's going to happen in April?
I think it's going to continue right at that two-thirds level. I think most of the old-timers in town, the people that have been here for a long time, agree it's finally time to do this.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense not to.
What time is it now?
It's about, what time is it?
What is your most popular item?
That's very difficult.
Do you have any Christmas knickknacks?
No.
Because my experience as a shopper is that people like anything to do with Christmas or Santa and stuff like that. But you don't have any of that?
Well, we have some of it. We have it, and we certainly have it at Christmas time.
Are you familiar with a big chain called the Christmas Tree Shops?
I am.
Are they successful?
I believe they are, at least in this part of the...
Do you know why they're successful?
They're cheap.
No, I think it's because people will buy anything to do with Christmas all the time.
Yes, people are always shopping for ornaments, for things like that. Tourists that come into town are looking for little ornaments and things like that they can put on their tree and say, oh, remember when we went to Rockport?
365 days a year, though?
Sure.
I called Phil, the producer, and told him opinions seemed to be leaning wet, at least among the shop owners. After that, I took a short walk over to the library to see what might happen there. Maybe, I thought, there'd be a riot, or at least a fist fight. What I found instead was a well-behaved brick wall of demonstrators, most of them with the KeepRockportDry.com committee. At first, they were suspicious of me and my microphone, but then they loosened up just enough to explain that Rockport would become a gigantic red light district, like Las Vegas, or worse, Amsterdam, if the town went wet.
Not only a 10-year resident of Rockport, but I've been coming here since I came in the 60s with my mother.
Can we ask you a few questions? What do you do here?
I'm self-employed.
Okay, is it illegal?
Yes, it is.
It should remain dry because it's always been dry.
It should remain dry because it's always been dry.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
I agree with that, yes I do.
Okay, do you agree with what he just said?
Yes.
Okay, what is your opinion on this issue of dry versus wet?
It's hard to say.
You sound like you have an accent. Where are you from originally?
Originally, really originally, from England.
Do you understand the issue coming up here in Rockport?
My opinion is that I am very sorry, but I haven't heard from any of the many people who are members of the chapters of Alcoholics Anonymous and who are struggling to break free from addiction to the drug called alcohol.
What is your opinion on this upcoming vote? Are you for or against the vote?
And I would like to know how they feel about this.
Well, do you know of any of those people that we could bring?
Yes, I do, but I don't know them by name because they're anonymous.
Oh, it's hard to say.
Now, you sound a little bit like Prime Minister Thatcher, former Prime Minister. Have you been told that before?
Yes.
Have you ever been asked to act her in a play or a movie?
Not yet.
Would you act her in a play or a movie?
Who knows? I can only answer a question when it's really an offer.
Can I ask you another question?
Sure.
I noticed that your hat still has the price tag on it. Is there any reason for that?
I don't know. It just feels like the right thing.
I think it's the right thing. It looks kind of cool because, you know what? I've never seen a guy wearing a hat with the price tag still on it.
I mean, I'm a little worried on one hand because, you'll get, if alcohol's allowed, you'll get bands in town, you'll get all sorts of really, sort of like not savory characters kind of hanging around.
Sort of like unsavory characters.
Unsavory characters, yeah.
Sort of like Donald Trump.
Yeah, I just think about just the future, how it's going to impact the planet.
And are you for introduction of alcohol in restaurants and pubs, or are you against it?
Pretty much against it.
Why are you specifically against it?
I don't really know.
Okay, and why are you for it?
I'm not really sure.
Well, there's lots of reasons. If there's drinking, they'll need a bigger police force to handle all the drunk drivers. There'll be more accidents.
One more question. How long have you been living in Rockport?
Like 6 to 7 years.
Have you ever been drunk before? That was just a trick question. It really wasn't the last question. The last question was going to be you. How long have you been living in Rockport?
I wouldn't really like to answer that question.
Okay, have you ever tasted alcohol?
I wouldn't like to really answer that.
Are you taking the Fifth Amendment? Well, thank you very much. Looks like the librarian is about to get angry at us. On the dryness and wetness issue.
We are a public building.
Okay, so should we leave now? We're going to leave now? Okay, we're going to leave. You know what the Fifth Amendment is?
No.
The Fifth Amendment is a constitutional guarantee that you don't have to incriminate yourself by answering questions that you don't want to. So you say, I'm taking the Fifth. Are you taking the Fifth Amendment? Goodbye. I'm sorry to trouble you, miss. Goodbye. All right. Toward the end of the rally, we ran into James, who told us he lived in a very historic house. Historically, why is that important?
She is the woman who led the initial crusade, and I forget when in the 1800s, but in the 1800s.
The crusades like against Christian crusade?
Not a Christian crusade, but the movement against alcohol in Rockport.
Because the real crusades were like in the 700s, right?
Something like that.
So that wasn't Hannah Jumper back in the 700s, right?
No.
Okay, now what was the crusade that she led?
Basically, there was a lot of drinking going on, and the legend, as far as I understand, is the women of town, especially, perhaps there were other men involved, were unhappy with the situation, and they led a expedition around town and smashed all the liquor, and then
what year was that?
So passed an ordinance at that time to forbid sales.
Do you know when that was?
I don't know when in the 1800s. My guess.
Just a moment. Kids, do you have any opinion on this, wetness, dryness issue in Rockport right now?
My dad wants it to be a wet town.
Why does he want it to be wet town?
Because he owns a restaurant.
And do you have an opinion?
Well, I'm not a grown-up, so I don't really...
Okay, well, we don't want to talk to you then. Do you have an opinion?
I don't have an opinion.
I'm going to the post office.
James said he had to go to the post office. He seemed like an interesting guy, so I asked if we could tag along. Come on, let's go. Where is it? Let's go. P.O. Box, okay, because P.O. that seems to be an increasing important thing in these days, P.O. boxes, don't you think?
I'm in charge of a movement to ban them.
I walked into the post office with James. It was a typical busy post office, and I knew I'd find at least one person to interview. Okay, we're now in the post office here in Rockport, and as you can see, there's a lot of people waiting in line to mail stuff, probably packages and things like that, Christmas gifts, although Christmas is now about 9 months away. And James is over there getting his P.O. box stuff. I don't have a P.O. box, but if I did, I would be getting it right here. And there's a gentleman over here. Sir, we're making a documentary about called Dry Town. It's about this issue of alcohol in Rockport, and we were wondering if we could ask you a few questions.
Okay, may I ask you one?
Sure.
Who's paying for this?
Me.
Your personal? You own a package store or a liquor store of some sort?
I own a film production company in Rockport, in Middletown, Rhode Island.
You have no financial interest in it?
Absolutely none.
Okay.
Now, I'm seeing that you're reading the Financial Times. It's an excellent newspaper.
Oh, thank you.
Most people aren't smart enough to read that.
Well, I think there are a lot of excellent American papers, and it's not written at a level that the average intelligent high school student cannot understand.
The average Joe.
I guess so.
Okay, let's get down to the issue. Enough of this gay frivolity. What is your opinion on the upcoming vote in Rockport?
I am a dry. That is to say, I favor keeping the present rules against selling alcoholic beverages in Rockport.
Despite the arguments saying that if the Rockport goes wet, there will be more business, there will be more restaurants, the business level will just increase generally. You don't agree with that?
And there'll be more car crashes, probably, and perhaps some fatalities as a result of that.
Sort of like gruesome high-speed car crashes.
I lost a cousin who, many years ago, who got too much liquor into him after high school graduation in Gloucester.
I'm sorry.
Rockport.
I'm sorry.
Well, it's long time ago, but it's a very sad thing. And
I didn't know that when I made that quip. I apologize.
No, I'd hate to see that happen in Rockport, that's all.
Even though you're wearing sunglasses, you sound a little bit... No, that's okay. We want you to be anonymous. You sound a little bit like former Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger. You're not him, are you?
Oh, I'm honored by the comparison. I am a registered Republican, but I do not know Mr. Weinberger. I've never heard him speak even.
But you know who he is?
Oh, I know who he is, yes. And if he has bronchitis too, I assure you that my sympathies go out to him.
Now, I'm going to ask you some personal questions, and if you don't want to answer them, I completely understand. Did you vote for George W. Bush last time?
I voted for McCain, for President John McCain.
Did you vote for Bush, though?
No.
You voted for McCain? Who did you vote for in 2000?
For Bush.
Okay. Now, you know that he was wrong about weapons of mass destruction, right?
Well, in Iraq, it turns out apparently that was an error.
We apologize for taking up your time. Yeah, no, you're moderately long-winded, but I wouldn't say you're extremely long-winded. I've seen some extremely long-winded people, and believe me, they're like a tornado. You're more like a gale. Next to the post office was, not coincidentally, the fire department. Between fires, fire station people have lots of time to kill, so I knocked on the door. This side door? Once I figured out how to get inside, I was greeted by Rosemary and Phil.
I have several views on it, let's put it that way. And my
Yes.
view from the ambulance aspect is that I have seen too many individuals that have been intoxicated that I don't feel that it will enhance the town in any way to have alcohol served in Rockport.
But won't that give you more business if there's alcohol and there's more accidents?
I don't want more business that way.
So you'd really prefer not to have any business?
Correct. I think Rockport's beautiful.
You're going to get paid the same as whether it's more or less?
Yeah.
They're not going to fire you if there's less accident?
No.
And your name is, again? Philip. I'm sorry. Bad short-term memory. Philip, why, what is your opinion? I presume it's the same?
Yeah, I'll vote no too. I mean,
I don't feel, you have to say just so much. Say you can say whatever you want. She's not your boss.
She is my boss.
Oh, she is your boss. Okay. All right, you're not objective. You're not objective.
I agree with her, anyways. I've lived there all my life, and there's people come here no matter what, no matter if there's alcohol in the restaurants or if there's not.
But don't you think the fact that it's dry is keeping a lot of people from coming here for dinner on a Friday or Saturday night in the summer?
It could be, it could not be. The option's open for you to bring your bottle of wine or your six-pack.
Further back in the station, we ran into a firefighter who looked like Stephen King. He wasn't Stephen King. His name was Don. About this wet versus dry, where do you come down on this issue?
No.
Do you come down anywhere? You come off you come off the engine, but I mean other than that.
Right. Sometimes. I still really haven't formed an opinion. I'm leaning toward wet.
Why?
I don't see it's going to make that much of a difference. I think it'll help the restaurants.
Okay, can I ask you an important question? It might not be that important, but let me take you over here just for a second, around the corner. And I've always been kind of wondering about this. Why is the word ambulance reversed here on the ambulance?
So when you look in the mirror, you can read it.
Okay, but I'm not looking in the mirror now, and it seems...
Right. You'd be looking in the mirror.
But I think you would agree, as we're looking at it now, it looks weird.
Sometimes.
Okay, I'm just wondering, because I've always wondered that, and you're actual with a...
If we're coming up behind you, in the ambulance,
yes,
then we want to make sure you know what it is, and if you look in your rearview mirror, you can read it.
but if I look around and not in the rear view, then it's a problem.
And that's why it's everywhere else straight.
Okay. At the end of the day, I was introduced to Steve, a local lobsterman who promised me a ride on his boat as soon as he had time. A few hours later, I stopped by the Greenery for a baked salmon dinner, without alcohol.
I'm Malcolm Alter, and your good time favorite station, North Shore 104.9.
And thank you, Malcolm. 8:40 is our time, and as we said, we're going to be talking, and we are going to talk to the Keep Rockport...
As voting day drew near, the hottest topic in town, the only topic in town, was the referendum on April 19th. It was on the radio, it was in the newspapers, and they even had a special debate about it on television.
I've had 200 or more than 200 people in my home as guests and visitors over the last 5 years.
It's time that we, as citizens of Rockport, vote to give ourselves the right to go into a restaurant in town and choose whether or not to order a drink.
And in the many conversations that I've had over backyard barbecues and family reunions and birthday parties, do you know how many people out of those 200 or more people have complained to me in these many conversations about serving liquor in Rockport? None. Not one. Zero.
It's time that we free ourselves from government regulation of our beverage choices.
After a briefing by the morning papers, plus 2 cups of coffee, I headed back to Bearskin Neck. It was there that I ran into a quaint family of 4, then a young man named Joe, who probably qualified as a tourist.
Rockport? No, I am not.
Where are you from?
I'm from just north of Boston.
Where precisely?
Reading, spelt like reading.
Yeah, it's too bad I know where Reading is. By the way, how long have you lived here?
40 years.
40 years. That's a long time to live anywhere. And how do you come down on this explosive issue, Alicia, about dry versus wet versus dry?
Dry town.
Dry. Dry. Why do you want it to remain dry?
Safety. The crime rate is very low here.
You want to keep it low?
And I want to keep it low.
Don't you want to raise the crime rate a little bit? Joe, how long have you been here?
How long have I been here in this moment?
Oh, yeah, at this bench. Now, I asked another gentleman this question. I'm going to ask you this same question, okay? If you had a choice of living in Rockport for the rest of your life or in Las Vegas, Nevada, where would you choose?
Definitely Rockport.
Now, I would have chosen Las Vegas. Why do you choose Rockport?
Because it's a dry town.
Why are you hanging out on this bench?
Because I saw you guys conversing with somebody, and
Don't you have a job? Don't you think Las Vegas is a little bit more interesting?
To visit for 4 days.
Now, let me ask you a real important question I think would have a lot of relevance to people watching this movie. Do you have any girlfriends? What is your name, miss?
Emily.
Emily, you're extremely pretty. Your dog is not as pretty, but it's still a nice dog.
Do I have girlfriends?
Yeah.
I have friends that are girls.
But no one regular girlfriend, right?
Not at the moment, no.
What is the dog's name?
Sydney.
Cindy, right. Now, what do you feel, Aunt Sydney, about this issue of dry versus wet? I know you won't be able to drinking age for about another probably 11, 12 years, but what do you feel right now? Where I'm leading here is this issue of April 19th coming up of dry versus wet confronting this town of Rockport is very important. You're of drinking age?
No, I am not. I will be in June.
Oh, you look older than 20. You look 50. But what I wanted to ask you is, what is your opinion on this dry versus wet issue?
What's the issue?
Well, the issue is, I forget. If you had a chance to live in either Las Vegas, Nevada, or Rockport, Massachusetts, for the rest of your life, where would you live?
Rockport.
Not Nevada? Oh, the issue is whether to allow legal sales of alcohol in Rockport or keep it the dry policy the way it's been since the late Jurassic period, about 100 years ago. Would you say that Rockport should allow the legal sale of alcohol in pubs and restaurants, whereas it's dry now?
No, I do not think that they should change the norm.
Why?
I think it will change the aspect and change what Rockport is.
What is Rockport? You don't even live here, do you?
No, I don't. But I mean, when I come here, I see the community, the way people act,
How are they acting?
The culture.
Strange?
No, not strange by any means.
But you would agree they're kind of strange.
No, I wouldn't say they're strange.
Odd?
They're unique.
Weird?
No.
I asked around on Bearskin and was told I should speak to Billy Donovan, a classic old-timer who owned an interesting shed next to the harbor. And you have a very interesting shed here. How long have you been here, Billy?
In the shed?
No, in Rockport.
Well, I've been lobstering out here since 1957. I've been on the wharf here since 1960.
Yes.
Most of these guys were born.
Right.
I've been down Bearskin Neck since 1947.
Right.
I started coming down here when I was about 11 years old.
I see.
So I've seen a lot of changes down here.
Okay, now, did you used to actually catch lobsters?
I went lobstering for 43 years.
43 years. Did you make a living at that?
I made a living, but just a living, that's all.
And now you basically just sit here and tell stories. Would you say that's accurate?
No, I don't sit here and tell stories. I sit here and make buoys.
And this is an example of a buoy you make. Now, what is the buoy going to, what color is it going to be?
I haven't decided yet. I make these for the tourists and stuff, but I don't sell too many of them. I give a lot of them away.
I'm going to ask you the final question. Have you ever heard of a man called Popeye the Sailor?
Yes, I have. He's the one that ate all the spinach, right?
Right. Would you say that that cartoon was accurate, technically accurate, as far as a sailor man, from a sailor's perspective?
Well, parts of it, yes, I'd say, yes, parts of it were, yes.
Thank you very, very much. I said goodbye to Billy, then went next door to the Roy Moore Lobster Pound. It was already time for lunch, and what I needed now was a big, fat, juicy lobster, or at least a bowl of chowder.
Hi, my name is Mark.
The original Roy Moore was long gone, but in his stead, managing the place, was a young man who called himself Raz.
You've heard about that issue, right? Now, where personally do you come down on this issue?
Wet.
You're for wet. Now, why are you for wet?
To increase business, bring some more traffic down here.
I see you have a nice case here full of fish and lobsters and clams. If you could just step over here for a second, why don't you give us a tour of this case? What would you say is the most popular item you say in here?
I would say the haddock and the salmon are the two most popular.
Yeah, those are what I like. I like salmon a lot too. Which one do you like personally?
A salmon guy.
I understand that salmon is very good for your health. Is that
Yes,
true?
Yes.
Yeah, as long as you don't cover it with butter sauce or something. Now, can we take a little bit of a trip here behind your counter? And
Raz had already prepared some chowder, not for me, but for the 12 o'clock crowd. Graciously, he allowed me to test it out.
And yes, it does look. Can I try some? Just a little bit. I don't want to take up your profits here. Let me just try the clam chowder.
What do we think?
I think I need to try some more. Okay. Now, what's behind here? Can we go further behind?
Again, a little deck.
What are we seeing behind here?
You got part of Rockport Harbor here, and nice old wooden benches.
Benches? Oh, I see. This is a place that people can eat.
Sure can.
Oh, I see. I thought there was just crates filled with food or something.
No, these are fine dining here.
Okay. Pigeon Cove was where a lot of Rockport's boats, and presumably pigeons, were kept for the winter. We were supposed to meet Steve the lobsterman for a ride on his fishing boat, but I didn't see him anywhere. Instead, I practiced my knot making with some local rope.
Well, we're here in the Pigeon Cove area of Rockport, and we're waiting for some lobstermen or fishermen or people that have anything to do with the ocean to show up so we can talk to them, get their opinion on the upcoming April 19th vote. It's a pretty empty, lonely time of day right now. I don't see any fishermen. I just see lots of boats covered for the winter. But no doubt, any moment, somebody's going to show up that we can talk to and get their opinion. And behind me, you can see the beautiful, briny, calm, picturesque, rocky Atlantic. And it reminds me of when I was young, growing up as a lad, not far from here, when I didn't go out to the ocean because I was scared shitless.
About a half hour later, I ran into another fisherman, Bob, who owned a Boston whaler plus a Labrador named Jordan.
And he likes to go out on the boat with us.
Bob was pretty friendly, and after answering a few questions, offered to take us out on the boat.
We're actually in the boat now with Bob and his dog, and we're heading out to the open ocean looking for whale or salmon or bream, whatever is out there. Bob, did you bring your harpoon?
Well, we forgot it today, but if there's a whale, we'll be able to handle it.
That's okay. I have a spare harpoon in my left pocket. Now that we're on the open ocean and nobody can hear us, I'm going to ask you a question. When we go wet here in Rockport, are you going to have wild parties out here on the boat, do you think?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's going to affect my life all that much.
But now you have to schlep into nearby Gloucester to get your booze, right?
If I were to go get some booze, I guess I would, but...
Isn't that kind of a nuisance?
Hasn't been an issue, not a nuisance. And it's a beautiful town, and if it stayed dry, that'd be okay with me too.
We're in the Boston whaler now, and we're going about 100 miles an hour, and I don't know what the hell this guy is doing, but I think I pissed him off or something. But he said he's going to take us out to like Easter Island. I don't know what the hell is going on.
Bob was only a part-time lobsterman, but I was still pretty impressed with his skills. Some of the lobsters he'd managed to catch were too short, and he had to throw them back.
Is this, you're the owner of a small Boston whaler. You get in and out, you can probably get in and out stealthily into Rockport Harbor. Has anybody, like guys, you know the guys, have they ever asked you to take something out here and dump it at night?
No, not at night.
Not at night, but how about during the day?
As voting day approached and the tension mounted, the airwaves hummed with predictions about how the vote would go. I was told I should speak to a man named Pierce Sears, a lifelong Rockport resident, and whose family owned a small bottling company called Twin Lights. If anyone was going to be affected by the vote, it was Twin Lights. I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes.
Oh, certainly.
Okay, that cat, do you have a cat?
Yes, so she...
Where's the cat?
She just disappeared.
Meow! Meow! Where's the cat?
In that...
In the cat room?
Well, no, she just disappeared. She's probably under the table in that room.
Meow! Because I really like cats. Do you have any other animals, like a cow or anything?
Oh, no. We always had dogs. I inherited this cat recently. She's 14 years old. My aunt died, and...
Did she leave the cat in the will?
Actually, no. But
Why do you have the cat then if it wasn't in the will?
The person who was caretaker for my aunt couldn't take it herself. It's a bottler because this issue has been reoccurring for over the years, and we always, kept a neutral stance on it.
We've talked to people over the last few days in Rockport who say that Rockport will really deteriorate. It's like it would become the Roman Empire. At the end, no?
I don't think there would be
crime, high crime.
No, none of
high-speed car crashes.
No big deal. No
gruesome crimes.
No big difference.
After a few moments of intense questioning, Pierce agreed to show us his bottling operation, which was right out back, across the driveway, in his garage. Yeah, here.
This is the washing machine that washes the returnable bottles. It takes about 45 minutes to clean them. Then you get about 3/4 of an ounce of syrup, just directly above, and it comes through this hose. And gas mixture from the carbonated come down through here, slide full bottles, 30 bottles a minute.
I asked Pierce if I could have a sample bottle, and he was more than happy to oblige. Fruity, moist, irresistibly insignificant. That's how I would say it. It's absolutely fantastic. At the rear of Pierce's garage was a mint-condition brown Cadillac, which, it turned out, he'd inherited from his father. Pierce told us he had a pressing engagement at the dump, so I asked if we could tag along. Where do you have to go right now, Pierce? You have to go somewhere?
No.
You have to go to the dump?
Oh, okay.
Now, what do you expect we would see at the dump other than the dump and garbage? Will there be anybody there?
Well, it's election time. We'll probably see some...
politicians.
You bet.
I heard there were race riots here about 10 years ago. Is that true?
I don't recall that.
The dump turned out to be only about 5 minutes away. I didn't know what we'd find there. Garbage, probably, or politicians, which were really the same thing. At first, no one wanted to talk to me. But then I found this guy, Dave, in front of one of the dumpsters, who luckily had a lot to get off his chest. What is your name, sir?
Dave Fritz.
Okay, Dave, do you work here at the dump?
Filling in.
Filling in? Now, what is your job precisely?
Precisely, I run that piece of equipment over there and mass the trash.
How long have you lived here in Rockport?
All my life.
How is that, like 25, 26 years?
Thank you. I'll stick with that.
Okay, where do you come down on this vote coming up on the 19th?
I'm not agreeing with it. If you're going to open it up for everyone.
Now, I would imagine that if the town does go wet, and there's more drinking, you'll be busier here. Wouldn't that be the case because there'll be more bottles?
Oh, no, I doubt it. Because it's the same amount.
We anticipated we see some politicians down here. Do you see any politicians?
No, not at this moment, nope.
But you would agree this might be a good place to run into some politicians?
They come for their candidacy, yes.
This is not a dry town?
No.
What do you mean by that?
Stay here and watch the bottles that come in.
What kind of bottle?
It's all, well, I'm not going to say all, but I'll bet you it's 20% non-alcoholic and clearly 80% alcoholic.
So they're getting the alcohol, let's say, in nearby Gloucester.
Oh, sure.
But then they're imbibing it in dry Rockport.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we see that you're extremely busy here, so I'll get right to the point, and this is why we came here today. I wanted to ask you a question that I've always wanted to ask somebody who works at the recycling facility.
Okay.
Have you ever seen a dead body in one of these bins?
No.
You've never seen, like in The Godfather, you've never seen that?
No, no.
Concrete shoes?
No, just like, you know, what happened on the news the other night, a finger in the Wendy's.
Have the what happened there?
Oh, you didn't hear that?
No, what happened?
That was yesterday.
What happened?
A finger.
They found a finger where?
A finger in the chili.
A fingertip in the chili.
Yes.
They advertised it as finger in the tip in the...
I don't know.
You live in Rockport?
Yeah,
How long have you lived here?
50 years.
50 years. So you've been around for a couple of weeks anyway, right? All right. And do you hold any sort of official position here in Rockport?
I'm on the Thatcher Island Town Committee.
Where do you come down personally, not officially, but personally on this issue of wet versus dry?
Oh, I think it should be wet.
Wet, why?
Well, give the restaurants a chance and whatnot, instead of having to go all the way to Gloucester to buy something to bring back to drink.
Now, I notice you're wearing a hat called the Gloucester Transit Mix. Is that a sort of cereal, or what exactly is that?
That's a concrete plant.
Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
And where are you going to go right now?
Home. I live right at the head of the...
Are you going to have Easter dinner tomorrow?
Probably.
Can I come?
Sure.
What's the address?
First house on the left.
I'd been in Rockport 2 weeks. It was a nice town with nice people. But now I needed something more. I needed a drink, so I drove into nearby Gloucester, which was wet and only 3 miles south. I checked out the usual tourist attractions, like that guy in the raincoat, then headed over to the Liquor Locker, one of 4 or 5 liquor stores in town, and where I ran into Wayne, the owner. I guess you're the owner here at the Liquor Locker?
That's correct.
And how long have you had the store here?
21 years.
It's a very, very nice store and a great assortment. And, you know, they're having the special vote coming up, a referendum on April 19th in Rockport about whether to go wet or stay dry, the way it's been for about 160 years. And what do you think is going to happen over there based on what you know?
It could go either way. It's like a coin flip.
How would you say your business would be affected if it did, in fact, change, if they decided to go wet? Do you think your business would be affected dramatically one way or the other?
Very slightly in the downside, but not crippling.
Like 5%?
Probably less than that.
What would you say is the most popular item for couples, young couples, or anybody going over to Rockport from here?
Probably maybe a bottle of wine.
Bottle of wine, and they presumably take that and they go over to Rockport and they party like crazy, right?
Well, I don't know if they party like crazy, but they
have a good time.
They have a good time, yeah.
And good luck, and hope everything works out for you. I thanked Wayne, did a little shopping of my own, then went next door to the St. Peter Club, which I soon learned was Gloucester's social nerve center.
It's a club for people to come in and play cards if they like.
What do you feel personally should be done in Rockport?
I think the idea of just serving alcohol in restaurants makes sense. I think allowing bars or package stores to open may not be the right way to go, but I don't see any harm in restaurants having beer and wine, alcohol.
Yes, now we've been told by a number of people, and specifically Rockport, this is the first time we've been asking questions in Gloucester, but people in Rockport feel that if they go through with this vote and allow alcohol in the restaurants, the whole place, Rockport, is just going to collapse. It's going to become the second Roman Empire. Do you agree with that?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, do you ever go to Rockport for dinner?
Very rarely.
No comprende? See, what's your first name?
Further down the bench was Paul, who was clearly some sort of executive on his lunch break.
When you go to dinner, do you feel that you'd like to have alcohol, and do you miss alcohol?
Yeah, I drink a little bit.
What do you drink?
Wine.
This T-shirt that you're wearing, yeah, right. What is the significance of that?
Everyone I work with just calls me Yeah Right.
Yeah, they call you Yeah Right?
It's a nickname.
Yeah Right. So that's a special T-shirt you had done for yourself, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah Right.
Will this be on television?
This will be on TV. This will be on all the major broadcasters throughout the United States and Canada, worldwide probably.
Like on Channel 5, 4?
Channel 5, 4, 6, 19, everything.
Great.
All right?
What night will this be on?
Next Tuesday.
Susie, great.
2 doors away was the Horizon Chinese restaurant. My idea was to have a meal, only this time with a drink. I explained my plan to Ling, our pretty hostess, who agreed to cooperate.
Okay, we're here in downtown Gloucester at the Horizon Chinese restaurant, and we've come over here today to find out what it's like having alcohol with your meal. So we're going to order our meal, and looks like they have a nice extensive menu here of a bean curd and tofu and fried rice and a lot of things you see on a Chinese menu. And we're going to order. So we'll order the Chinese meal, and then we'll order with it a drink like a zombie or a Mai Tai or some similar drink like that. And we'll do an experiment. We'll see what it's like having a meal with alcohol, unlike in Rockport, where currently you can't have alcohol with your meal. Hi, Susan. This is Marc Berlin. I'm a documentary filmmaker.
The manager was getting a little nervous about my camera and microphone, so I called the owner, which is when I got the bad news.
With some alcohol, unlike what you can do in Rockport right now. And I'm wondering, do you know what's going on in Rockport? Right, they're having that vote coming up on April 19th, the wet versus dry issue. And we've come over here to your restaurant in Gloucester to order a meal, but with alcohol, like with we're going to order a meal and we're going to order then some alcohol with it, like a zombie or a fog cutter or a Black Russian, something like that, and see what it's like having a meal with alcohol. You can't order any alcohol? Oh, I see. Well, there goes our experiment. Is there any way you could bring us some alcohol? Could you bring us like a fog cutter or a zombie or something like that? No, you couldn't do that? Oh. Okay. Well, you have a nice restaurant, and the waiters have been very nice, and the waitresses have been very nice, and we've just had the soup so far, and that was very good. So we'll just order the rest of the meal, Susan, and thank you for letting us use your restaurant to conduct this non-experiment. On the way back to Rockport, I called the police. After all, if Rockport went wet, it'd be the police making all the arrests. I didn't think the cops would agree to talk to me, especially in a small town like Rockport. But to my surprise, over the phone, a very nice man named Sergeant Hilliard agreed to meet me at headquarters. I reminded Sergeant Hilliard about the upcoming vote, then started with some personal questions, dry versus wet. Now I'm going to ask you a personal question, and you don't have to answer it if you don't. Where personally do you come down on that issue?
Where personally do I come down
Yes.
on the issue?
Do you have a personal view, or do you don't want to tell me?
Well, if you look at the back of my Jeep parked out back, it says, keep Rockport dry.
Okay, so that's where you're coming down personally. Now, how do you think, let's say the vote comes down, let's make it wet. How do you think, from the policeman's point of view, that will affect Rockport?
it's going to have very little impact.
One question I've always wanted to ask a real policeman, and I haven't talked to a real policeman before except for a speeding ticket or something, is when you were growing up, and you look like maybe you're about the same age as me, what was your favorite cop show?
My favorite cop show?
Yes.
Well, back then we had Adam 12.
Now, was that an accurate, would you say it was an accurate show?
Maybe in L.A. it was, because that's where it was based, in Los Angeles.
Yes. Would you say, how about Dragnet?
Dragnet, the same thing, it's based in L.A.
One thing I would like to see before we go here is two other rooms. Is the interrogation room, so where I can interrogate you more closely. And I also want to see the padded cell of the lockup. Is that possible? The first thing Sergeant Hilliard showed us was the interview room. Except for the large makeup mirror in the middle of the wall, it looked like a typical room. Okay, now I don't see anywhere here, unless I'm overlooking it somewhere, I don't see a lie detector polygraph.
We don't have a polygraph.
Why not?
Because we're a small department. If we needed to engage the services of one, we would contact the state police.
What am I looking at? This is a mirror now. Do I put makeup in this mirror?
You don't have to, but it's a one-way mirror.
One way, so there's people looking at us now?
It could be. If we wanted somebody to do an identification and they didn't want the perpetrator to see them, they would stand on the other side.
Sure. Where exactly are we now within the police
We're in
department?
the detention and booking area of the station, and behind me is another interview room, and to the left of that is a female holding cell.
Is there a female in there now?
There is not. There is nobody.
We don't want to see that then.
No.
Okay, let's look at the holding cell. So this is pretty rudimentary. We're seeing a toilet, a wash basin, and it looks like here some bleacher seats.
Concrete slab.
I don't see the electric chair. Where is it?
We don't have.
You don't have
we
it.
don't have an electric
Okay, okay.
chair.
What is this now? This room?
This is where we'll actually bring in a prisoner, sit them down here. They'd be handcuffed to one of the Murphy bars on either end of this chair, and.
Can we see this room?
I can show you this room. We'll go out through the garage.
Okay, let's go.
We open the door to the holding room. There's also an emergency shower eye wash station. If somebody was less than agreeable and perhaps got a little pepper spray, we could give them a little flush out their eyes.
Have you ever had to apply that?
Yes, on the 4th of July last year, they got to use it.
I see, okay.
Some youngster was flexing his beer muscles.
Oh, geez.
One of the officers gave him a little pepper spray.
Okay, so they go from the car right in here.
Right in here with a seat at the table, at the bench, and pending which side they write, which hand they write with, if you're right-handed, your left hand will be handcuffed to the post.
Can I go in there?
Sure can.
Okay, I'm actually going into the cell here, and I feel, to tell you the truth, a little guilty. I don't know what I've done. I haven't done anything, actually. But I feel guilty just being in here, and this is one of the actual handcuffs that I would be handcuffed to. Well, as I said, I feel extremely guilty just being in here, Sergeant, so I'm going to get out of here, because I might actually do something.
Where we would finish the booking process, and get all their personal information.
Yes.
And then at that point, if they elected to take an intoxilizer, then the machine is over here, we bring them over there.
I don't have a record, but is my name on there anywhere for anything?
If you have no record, then it would not be in the system.
Even for speeding?
Well, you might have on your driver history, it's possible.
And I think I did have an overdue meter 2 weeks ago in Rockport.
Overdue meter?
Would that be?
An expired meter? No, it would not.
Okay.
We have 3 cells here.
3 cells. Nobody's here. Where is everybody?
Everybody is behaving themselves this evening.
Really? Maybe
They're not getting caught.
Maybe you're not doing a good job.
Well, maybe it's more of a deterrent.
Okay, actually, let it be noted that the sergeant's doing too good a job. That's why nobody's here. Well, Sergeant Hilliard, you've been extremely helpful. Thank you very much. Let me shake my hand. Don't handcuff me. And I'm going to obey the law now that I've seen what you got here. It had been a long day driving and interviewing, with more interviews tomorrow. Back at the motel, I relaxed in my room, then tried to order room service. Hi, this is Mr. Berlin in room 120. Yeah, hi. I was wondering, do you have any room service here? Because I'm hungry. I just wanted something to eat. Nothing really complex, just maybe like a sandwich or a bowl of milk or something like that. You have no room service whatsoever? Okay. What would be the closest bar to here? 7 miles? Okay, what's that place called? The Dive? Okay, all right. Okay, well, thank you very much. Okay, thanks. Bye. The next morning was warm and sunny, and voting day was fast approaching. I needed more answers, more time, and a lot more money. Luckily, back downtown, I found more people who had time to talk to me. A merchant, 3 tourists, and some kids riding bikes. What do you do here? What kind of store do you have here?
A magic shop, New England Magic.
And what precisely do you sell here at New England Magic?
Magical supplies.
Are you aware, sir, of what's going on April 19th, the issue of the vote as to whether Rockport should stay dry or wet? Are you aware of that?
Yeah.
Where do you live, miss?
Salem House.
Salem, okay. How long have you lived in Salem?
Forever.
This is a very, very special place. It has a beautiful ambience.
What is your opinion of that issue? How would you vote if you could vote? What would be an example of a magical supply?
Crystals, herbs.
Kids can come here. It's just got a lovely atmosphere.
Are you for going wet here in Rockport, or are you against it?
I think change is good.
Are you familiar with the Salem witch trials?
Oh, yes.
What year did that happen?
1626.
Are you his friend?
Yep.
And you have a nice blue shirt, so I'll talk to you next. Did that involve alcohol, or what did that involve?
No alcohol, just the witches.
If for some reason the vote went no, would you be able to do anything magically, or like using your powers as to change the vote?
This is unique. I've traveled a lot over the States and even England.
I ran into some ladies out on the point here who are from Salem, and I asked them if there were any witches currently in Salem. They said no. Do you have any other information about the witch situation currently in Salem?
I think there are plenty of witches in Salem. I think there are plenty of witches everywhere.
Anything like this in England?
No, quite simply.
England is pretty just dreadful, right?
Well, it rains a lot.
Are you a wise guy?
Maybe.
Final question is, what would you say is the most popular witch item, or which item is most popular, would you say, in your store?
Witchcraft supplies and ritual tools.
Where are you going, to the health club now? Where are you going, to work out?
Just poking around.
So are there any witches in your store right now?
Well, they had just left.
Englishman, keep it dry, guys.
You were very interesting.
Thank you. You're very interesting, too.
And how interesting am I?
I think you're very interesting.
Like on a scale of 1 to 10, like a 9?
9, and 9 is a very magical number.
It was time to have lunch again. This time, though, I thought I'd conduct an experiment to see if I missed having an alcoholic beverage with my seafood lunch. I ended up at the picturesque lobster pool, complete with ocean view and no waiting. We're here at the Lobster Pool restaurant, about 50, 75 yards from the picturesque, fantastic Atlantic Ocean off to my left. And I've had lunch. I'm finished with lunch. I had a cheeseburger, delicious cheeseburger with lettuce and tomato, and I had a cup of chowder and a root beer. And I'm trying to think, do I want something to drink now? Do I want a margarita or a beer or a Bailey's, something like that? And if I had to answer truthfully, I'd probably say, no, I don't want something to drink. I think I've had enough. And that's just me talking. It's not representative of the population. So that's the answer. We've done our experiment. I don't want something to drink. And but again, we don't know if that extends to the general population. I do have some of these crackers now, which I'm sort of nibbling on as a dessert. And they're kind of salty. And maybe I wish I had a beer. Maybe a beer would be good. I don't know. A beer, possibly a beer. Maybe a Mai Tai. After lunch, I talked to some nearby tourists. They seemed to be in town primarily for the lobster and didn't care about the lack of booze. Fantastic. Now, what did you have for lunch?
I had the chowder and salad, and he had a veggie burger.
Was it good? We're in a dry town now. As of now, you cannot order alcohol with your meal, a beer. Now, do you wish now that you could order alcohol? Is that affecting your appreciation of this meal, or what?
I'd say no, because I don't like beer, and I probably wouldn't take anything alcoholic for lunch. But tonight after dinner, if I went out, I wouldn't mind having a glass of wine with my dinner.
Now, you're not going to be able to do that tonight because this is a dry town. So how is that, what are you going to do? Are you going to go to another town?
Nothing.
We'll stay here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not that big a deal.
Across the street from the Baptist church was the Hannah Jumper house. It was back in 1856 when Hannah Jumper, a 75-year-old seamstress, led a gang of crazed women on a rampage through Rockport in an attempt to destroy all the alcohol they could find. From everything I'd been hearing, it seemed like Miss Jumper, 150 years later, was about to get screwed.
Hannah P. Jumper, 1781 to 1865, temperance leader, Hatchet Gang liquor raid, July 8th, 1856. So this is the lady that started everything and why we're here today.
On voting day, I awoke to the same sleepy, picturesque, rocky town I'd come to know intimately over the last 4 weeks. Nothing had changed outwardly in Rockport during that time, but now, inside, normally uninvolved people had become more aware, more involved, and I guess that was good. By 7:30, wet and dry forces had already begun to assemble. Away from the field of battle, I had a quick breakfast, read the morning papers, then walked up the street to precinct number 2.
Voting booth, and it seemed, and I had talked to a few people at breakfast down at that restaurant down there, I forget the name of it, and they said it looks like 55% for, 45% no. That's not good for your side, correct?
No, that's not good for us.
But Bush had looked like he was dead before the vote in 2004 too, when he came out a winner, right?
That's correct.
So you could come out on top.
It could very well happen.
Do you want to tell us how you voted?
Well, I'm a merchant in town. It would seem that I would vote in favor of alcohol at this point.
Did you vote for capital punishment?
I didn't notice that on the ballot.
Precinct 2 was a beehive of official activity, without the bees. As Phil, our producer, voted, I probed the ladies manning the sign-up tables.
Wet versus dry.
And has it been busy this morning?
Very busy.
How many people do you think voted?
We have 507 so far.
507? Is that a lot?
Yes.
How many would you normally get? 2?
I don't know.
10?
Half of that.
10?
No, maybe in the 300 range.
300?
We're up to 507 right now.
What time will we know precisely what the result is?
We close at 8 tonight.
8 o'clock. Isn't that past your bedtime?
I was sure.
The workers at the second precinct had been pleasant, but I needed information. Luckily, just down the street was the Chamber of Commerce. I figured the chamber must know something I didn't. The lady there was nice too, but had no inside information. So I walked back over to Bearskin, where I ended up at Gina, the psychic. Gina was a gypsy, and psychics had been part of her family for centuries. At no charge, Gina laid out her cards and told us, confidently, that the final vote would be 55% wet, 45% dry.
Strongly yes.
We are going to have a yes vote.
We are going to have a yes. It looks like a yes.
Stuart, yes, he voted.
Finally, over at the 4th precinct, I ran into another cross-section of voters, each with their own reasons for voting wet or dry. Even the lady visiting from England had an opinion.
How did I vote? I voted for Dry Town.
No, I didn't mean that. I mean, how did you vote? By pencil or by elect? Did you just vote?
Yes.
Okay, and how did you vote?
Wet.
How did you vote?
In blood.
Okay, and what did, no, I didn't mean that. I mean, what did you actually vote, yes or no? And why did you vote wet?
I can't imagine any other way.
No other, and did you vote the same way, miss?
Yes, I did.
No, I'm not going to vote. I'm a visitor here in Rockport. I'm just on holiday.
Where are you going now? Going home?
We're going to the dump.
And where are you from?
I am from England. I'm
part?
from the Yorkshire Dales.
Going to the dump? You going to get rid of him? If you could vote, how would you vote?
Well, being English, I would vote for.
You voted no. You want to keep it dry, right?
I live next door to a pub.
Pub? What's the name of it?
It's Cavendish.
Do you get drunk out of your mind there?
I could quite easily, but I don't.
Why do you want to keep it dry?
I like things the way they are.
Well, I know, but I mean, the Constitution has been amended 27 times. Now, where are you going to go right now?
Salem, I think.
What's in Salem?
I haven't a clue.
In the end, the vote was close, 55% wet, 45% dry, exactly as our friend Gina the Psychic had predicted. I made a mental note to consult her about some stocks I was thinking of buying before I left town. The citizens of Rockport, some of whom never made it into this documentary, had spoken, meaning this quaint village by the sea was now officially wet for the first time in 160 years. Still, at the end of the day, I knew Rockport really wouldn't change that much. Bob the lobsterman would still lay his traps, Sergeant Hilliard would still guard his cells, the ladies at the gift shops would still sell gifts, Armando the pizza man would still serve his calzones, Raz the cook would still make chowder over at the lobster pound, and the kids on the neck would still ride their bikes. As for myself, I checked out of my motel, then drove downtown for one long last look at rocky, picturesque Rockport. It was a nice, friendly place, and I knew I'd be back, someday, at least to have a beer. Finally, I dropped by the blacksmith shop, where I had an expensive lobster dinner, topped off with a Shirley Temple and a slice of apple pie. A few days later, I heard a rumor from my producer that the city of New York was considering replacing Central Park with a large chemical plant. It sounded crazy, but as a reporter I had to check it out. After all, that's what I did for a living, check things out. I've asked everybody this question. I'm going to ask you the question, John. Why do you want to keep Rockport dry?
Okay. Well, I guess the best way to start is before I even got involved with the committee, okay, as a resident and I got involved in learning more about this issue.
Yes.
I really challenged myself because I'll be honest, as we had just discussed off camera about, the emotional component of what we really believe versus reporting on it in a news.